この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Teeaboo, and I am here for Dungeon Meshi episode, the next one. And I'm just doing a little recording here in the beginning to say hello, welcome, hi, good morning. Hope that everything is well. And I'm actually gonna pop outside to draw something really quick because I don't think that I can draw it from mind. I want to learn how something works in reality so that I can transfer it to the page more effectively, just like we did with mushrooms. But to get there, I gotta tell you a little bit of a story. It starts last week when I drew that, and I ended the video and went and edited it, and it took way too long to edit because I spent so much time, like, talking in the beginning as I was drawing the thing, so I couldn't just smush it all together and had to stop at a different point. Annoying. Anyway, finished doing that, put it away, uploaded the video, and went on with my life. Until the point that I was later that night watching a Good Mythical Morning Mythical Kitchen video with my partner, my long-distance partner, and we were watching this video, and I saw this dude with the hair. Not exactly the hair. It's this is the image that I saw, at least one image from the video, and I was entranced by the whole video. I did not pay attention to the video at all. I just watched his hair bubble around, and I thought, holy shit, that's amazing. I have no idea how to draw it. Fuck. All I gotta do is expand that bitch out so that it's huge, and then it would be pretty close to the kind of situation that I'm looking for there. And it lines up because I was thinking in my heart of hearts, I was thinking, maybe this fucking dwarf dude isn't white. He doesn't have to be. Maybe he's not. Maybe just based on the way that he looks and feels and vibes, maybe he's black as fuck. And it looks like he's going to be. I don't have near me a person who I can ask to look at their hair real good. I wish that I did, and I totally would. Although that might result in some awkwardness. It's the kind of awkwardness that I love to overcome with people and like talk to them in a way that cherishes them and who they are and the way that they exist and stuff. It's a hard line to walk, but it's worth trying. But as I was staring at his hair, I was like, wow, that really looks like this type of evergreen that I've seen. And you've seen it too. You've seen it as like hedges or even big trees that are allowed to overgrow. And it's got these like tendrils of evergreen that are all sort of like a matted mass of stuff. And I was thinking, man, when you zoom out of that, the sort of textural vibe of it is not dissimilar. There's something kind of similar there. I want to explore that thread. I want to pull that thread. And so I got to go look for one of those evergreens. I know that there's one across the street from my backyard. I know that there's one across the street from my front yard. I need to go find the one that I can most effectively sit in front of with a couple of pieces of paper and sketch at for a little bit. And so that's what I'm going to do now, and we're going to switch over to phone camera and stuff, and I'm going to try to walk the line of not revealing my location in physical space while showing you what I'm going to go draw. And here we go. This is my kit. I've got 2 pieces of cardstock, 1 thicky Coeco SketchUp pencil, 1 Micron Sakura 03, the Atlas of the Human Body as my clipboard, and we're off to the races. Y'all see that guy over there? He's pretty far away, but that's the guy we're looking for. Yeah, all those weird tendrils. Okay, this is the best version over here. We're up close. Okay. But this is the kind of a guy. I'm sure I'll really be able to show you as I'm drawing, but I'll see if I can figure out a way. I'm over here, and the bush I'm looking at is right over there. See, it looks like that. It's kind of got these tendrils that come off it, almost. Like strings, maybe? I don't know how to... Okay, there are these, like, sections, like this. I guess they all kind of turn into these sort of tendrilized things. Okay, that doesn't feel right. So what if I construct it from the bottom? Got this sort of trunk aspect, and then it'll branch out like this, and then that becomes this big sort of bubble, and then that becomes a littler bubble, becomes a littler bubble, And then that becomes like the tendril. But what about if it's just like, I don't know, if it's just a big blob like this, right? And then I just add some little tendrils? The answer is kind of yes. Okay, kind of. I like that. Same thing, different way. Okay, I got all my Recordo things set up and also a Kitty Copilot, which is nice. And I'm back inside to evaluate my scrimbimbles. My evaluation of them is not very kind. These suck, right? Like they're not great, but that's fine. That's part of the point. We've talked about this a couple times now over the course of Dungeon Meshi. A first attempt to see beyond what you normally see, or in this case, to see something that I've walked by thousands and thousands of times and have a mental image of that doesn't actually match reality. Like, my mental idea of what that bush, tree, evergreen, I should probably figure out what it actually is. Let me go figure out what it actually is. I think it's a type of cypress, but I'm not actually sure. Because there are types of arborvitae, there are types of fir, and there are types of cypress that are all grown in similar ways. I actually can't tell which one is which. In this case, I've walked past all of them in various capacities, and now that I know that there are differences between them, there are also differences probably in how I would best draw them, because they're like microstructure. The structure of their needles is different, and the structure of the branches that hold those needles is slightly different, and so that means that the structure of the whole thing and the way that it looks is different, and I can't even capture the way that one of them looks, not even like a little bit, really, let alone reshape that stuff into something that's repeatable and replicable and easy to draw. Because when we watch anime, we have these characters that are boiled down to where their whole like hair blob, his hair blob, is all boiled down to like 3 lines. It's just like one big line and then one line that indicates where the hair blob is, and that's the whole thing. How do I get there? How do I get there? How do I get to that degree of abstraction? And I think what I'm coming up against is the same issue that I have with like fabric placement and hair and where it actually is, and textures of stone and textures of mushrooms and concrete and wood and all of these different things, and its complexity. It's like the sheer complexity of the actual world that we live in, that our brains filter for us, and when you try to turn that filtering off and actually figure out what things look like in a way to reproduce it, you open yourself up to the insanity of the world that we exist in. Because we look and we abstract pine tree into Christmas tree shape, but it is goddamn not Christmas tree shaped, and it is not a solid object. It is many thousands and millions of little needles overlapping, and I don't know, in the space of opening my mind to that, the closest that I can come to representing those things is like with the hair blob that we did here, where what I had to do was draw every single line, and that got me the closest that I can get, because I can't wrap my head around the possibility space well enough to abstract it completely and draw it the way that an artist who's capable as a character designer and artist would draw it. I don't know how to do that yet. That's a magic spell that I have seen people do. I know that you can make a fireball, and I'm still trying to figure out how friction and heat are combined. How does that part work? I can't even fathom putting it all together yet. And that's really cool, because that's where I'm at, right? That's where I am right now. That's what these sketches serve as a starting point and a point for. And I feel like that's a direct link to our conversation last time about that guy and how he's a point in space as well. And so now, to figure out where his next point is, I need to do a lot of little stuff in order to figure out the little things that make somebody more real, that make that make that texture more right, that make it all come together, I've come up against the wall of what I'm capable of right now. And so I have to go beyond that and out into reality and out into fiction, out into fantasy, out into the imagined, out into other artists' work, which is probably the next step for me, is to go and find a bunch of cool artists drawing people with hair that's similar to the way that I like it and what I'm looking for, and people who are drawing trees and figure out how the fuck they're drawing trees, and maybe find and buy a book on drawing trees and find some people who figured out some techniques that make these things happen and sort of glue together those physical responses and physical actions to create the thing. I don't fucking know. That was fun. I enjoyed going and drawing outside. It was way too bright for me to really see very well, and I don't know how any of the video ended up actually being, but that was our drawing for today. Kind of fun that we come out of last week with a fairly coherent drawing. It's like, oh, this is a character design, essentially. It's not a very good one, but it is a character design. And we come back today, and it's the worst scribbles that I've put on page for months and months and months. Yes! I love... It's deeply... The word isn't humiliating, but it is humility-inducing. It is humility-inducing. Humbling, I guess, is the word. But even then, that doesn't feel right, right? Like, all the words that we have around humility, except for humility, don't capture it for me. Humility to me is like honor. It's like, oh, that's good stuff. Being humbled is like, oh, that's something that you do to somebody who's really cool and you want them to be miserable now. That doesn't feel right. Humiliation is a kink thing. That's a different thing. But humility-inducing is like, you stand in front of maybe the Grand Canyon or a great waterfall and you go, I'm so small. That's cool. That's humility induction. And I like that. And I get that a lot from trying to draw things that I don't understand. Because it's like, oh, you're so big. Your brain's so good. Brain thinks so good. Understand world real smart. Know things. Know many things. Know all the things. Ha ha, know all the things. Guess what? Don't know how to draw a tree. Know what tree is? Yeah, you do. Sure you do. Good job, brain. Know things. Know many things. Draw it. Good luck. Oh, shit. I don't know things. I don't know anything. I don't know anything at all. Oh, no. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Good. Humility induced. That's a great place to start here because we are small and we are diving into a place that is much bigger than us. The dungeon. The dungeon. And coming off of last episode where we came real close to the death and loss portions of things and discovered a little bit about what it means to actually die and not die here in the dungeon, I've been on a cosmology world building trip that I can trace the roots of in my brain directly back from that thing. Here's how it went. That thing happened, and then I went looking at Mega Dungeons. So I went and I read through the first opening portions of Stonehill, Ardenvool, and I've already got the Undermountain in the back of my mind all the time. It's always there. And Undermountain. Just looking at the framework for it, the overall thing, what makes a dungeon dungeony. And I like that stuff a lot. It makes me want to draw and create my own dungeons, which I've been kind of working on. Here, this one's fun. That one's fun. It's like it's a citadel made of weapons, and then there's a giant hammer underneath with multiple layers and a giant staircase, and then that goes probably to the void or something. I don't fucking know. It seems like fun. Anyway, I've been on a trip on this front, and I've been building out dungeons and thinking about what makes them cool. And some of the things are like an end boss that's really interesting and more unique than expected. Here in our dungeon, the dragon is our core goal boss, but it's not the end game. There's a crazy wizard, mage, something like that, down there for reasons. What are his reasons? Unknown to literally everybody alive. That's pretty interesting to me. That fits, that counts. A huge, enormous, almost impossible place is part of the mega dungeon feel. That's too vast for your party to ever truly fully explore. Glorious. And then, something that makes this place different. Something that makes this place inevitably different. So, for one of those, there's an entity that was drawn to the dungeon by all the suffering that happened there, because it was like an ancient prison and stuff. There was lots of torture. So it was drawn there, and it's an entity that is a fifth dimensional weird creature that feeds off of pain, and so it like makes the dungeon worse all the time in order to get more pain because it's yummy. Like we're livestock to it. All of this because the show sent me seeking after cool world building ideas. And that's because the show embodied cool world building ideas, something unique and something interesting that my mind is trying to find possibility spaces for, not even necessarily an exact answer for, but what kinds of answers do people come to in dungeons like this? What kinds of reasons underlie the whole thing? And I don't know what the answers are for this one, but I like that they're clearly well thought through. That's what's obvious, is that clearly some thought has been put into those questions and into having interesting answers for them, and we are just now ourselves sort of navigating through the tiny portion of it that we can see with a distinct feeling that the author has a much bigger vision in play, and I really like that. When I start thinking in big terms about building worlds or building whole universes even, or building dungeons perhaps, thinking about that history and then thinking about what small piece of it your players might actually be able to navigate and explore is really interesting. There's this rich tapestry of a place that might be there, and then your characters just brush the surface, just touch on the layers that have remained of what came long before. And I wonder how much of our understanding of our own past as humans is kind of like that, where we've only brushed through the surface layer of what we can understand and see about histories that are so immensely much more complicated than we can ever wrap our heads around. We're kind of sketching Christmas trees over the endless complexity of the actual thing. I don't know. Yeah, let's go dive into the dungeon, baby. And see what happens next and whether we find out more about it. Our last episode did a bunch of the things that I expected from it. We met up with some other party and had to deal with dealing with people in order to get what we needed. In this case, the use of some resurrection magic. And it went in a bunch of directions that I sort of didn't expect. We didn't add a new party member, but instead they did. She managed to overcome herself and become a new party member to them. How strange. And yeah, that's the main thing that I thought was really interesting. But we have now wrapped up our wounds and regained a bunch of magic power from eating a spirit monster. Awesome. And we may now tread onward into the dungeon. Will things be the same as they were before? I feel like things are different now. I'm not exactly sure why, but something changed when Marcial went down. Uh, I don't know how to put my finger on it. Maybe we have transitioned from our introduction to the next step in our story. What's that step? I don't know. I think it might be focused on the dragon, like getting there and doing the dragon thing. I wouldn't be surprised if our tone of episodes changes somewhat here, if things get a little bit different. But maybe I'm wrong and we will just find a cool thing and fight it and eat it. Or maybe anything. Dungeon Meshi can do what it wants at this point. I consent. Let's dive into episode 10 of Dungeon Meshi. That does feel like a turning point to me. Not in a Mushoku Tensei sort of sense, but, just it's episode 10. We've got episode 10 up and ready to go. There'll be 2 versions, picture-in-picture, in the description. Timer on YouTube. PiP timer to count you down. Early access on Patreon. PiP timer to count you down. Let's go. Crazy for me to be using a small mug. I found a full set of these. These are These are vintage original Fiesta ware. I found them in a box on the street. Somebody had thrown them away. They're like the prettiest cups. One man's trash, as they say. Lots of trash I find to be treasure. I'm a trash goblin. Okay. And so we walk on. Oh, they're all tentacles. More flavors. I don't know about that. Oh my god, I love her hair today. I was really like micro braids in with... Whoa! Wait, they become like organo-trapo creatures? That's some fetish dungeon stuff. We got a long... Maybe we climb down? How do they do it? Jingles. There's got to be something else going on here. Your sword. Kensuke! Oh, fuck. Yay. And? Shit. They're just dropping it. Maybe we just jump. Maybe we just jump. Wow, that looked great. That was so crisp and colorful. Wow. Really simple, just smash, but holy shit. If you could activate it, use that trap knowledge. Not your hands. He's not a kid! Okay, we're gonna use the skin as an insulator. Yeah. Oh, we've got frog skin gloves. Nice. Shit. Strength is not his high score. Oh, God. It's gonna toss him back. Oh, nope, it's gonna just fully eat him. Oh! No, no, not falling, not falling. Okay. Didn't fall. I thought we were gonna get tossed back into the... That was brilliant, buddy. Yeah, can we use this? Can we use this to get through the tentacles faster somehow? Are we all gonna wear frog skins? Tell me we're gonna wear weird frog kigurumis. Oh. Okay, we're also cooking. Hey, hey, hey. Is that gnocchi? That's gnocchi. Now we're talking. Tentacles gnocchi. Tentacles pasta, frog suit. I bet that the kigurumis are gonna be so fucking cute. Aww. You will look really cute in it. Very childish, but very cute. Holy shit, are we gonna do an anglerfish dance? That's what I feel like we're gonna do. Oh, he's so tiger-coated. Oh my god. They're so cute. They're so cute. Fucking Senshi, just a little bubble. He looks like a little spaceman. I love that. I hope we keep the frog suits. We're not going to, though. Wow. A transition indeed. Her heroes. Legends. Captured exactly as they were when they fought the dragon. Oh, we have a way back out? Doesn't like transitioning, huh? Wow, we're getting to follow them more. Huh? Are we up above or are we some layer down below? I'm assuming that we took the path up. Okay, okay, okay. We're outside of the dungeon. We never get to see that. Things are falling apart. They lived in there, dude. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, there's so much weird stuff going on. The mission. Wow, directly made in his hand. Okay, faction play has started. Oh shit. Faction play has started. Okay. Trapped. Yeah, for sure. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. The most valuable thing is that. We need to figure out what the wizard did, like who he was before. What's your place in this, dude? Because he's just a rich, he's to be used. Enforce. Encourage them. I'm blinking really fast because I'm intaking information. Holy fuck. How about all the way, baby? We can go all the way, baby. That's some good fighter stuff. You've become a trusted member. A little bit. Something about the half-lidded eyes is so goddamn sexy. There's like nothing sexy about the character except that. Ah. Oh? Gonna go rejoin Laios? Oh. Oh, is that the first time we've heard him speak? I feel like it is. What's this? An errand. Not very good at telling with humans, huh? Yeah? She's not here, dude. She doesn't know. She never talked to them about it, huh? Whoa. Cool statues. Food. Pun. They also might not come back. Careful. Oh. Different. Yeah, they're still burning. it's not sleeping. What if? Yeah, we can't act that way. He has mentioned that repeatedly. He's gonna end up helping, right? Huh, feels like we're missing some parts to that play here. Namely, we would be great if we had Shuro. It's so fucking big! Gogeta! Yeah, how do you even get to its neck? You gotta get it to try to eat you. Oh, that was fun. Oh, Sky... that's... Wait, that's Dark Souls! If only we had fire-resistant skin. It's a lot of parts. Try to crush it or lock it down. It won't be that easy, but it's a good idea. Man, we're building to really doing this. Yeah, what's really going on? I don't think so. Oh, he's like protective. Yeah. Okay, pretty cool and triumphant. I love the mapping. I love the planning ahead. It's really cool. Setting this up so that all your conditions are met. This will transition us to, like, the next couple episodes are going to be about this, huh? Nice. You got it. You gonna fight while you're hungry? Yeah, what are you thinking? That's how we got in this situation in episode 1. Yeah, let's not fuck around. Chilchuck has a taste for the good stuff, huh? That's new. Quiche? Nope. Mmm. Katsu? Frog katsu? That's a katsu. Cutlets to conquer the dragon. Fuck yeah. Victory cutlets. Cuts! Goddamn love Isekai Shokudo. Yeah, why are you crying, Marcio? We gotta eat that. Now, what do you think dragon tastes like? Thank you. Yeah. Some real connection before we go into battle. Yeah. It's a good statement, dude. All in the midst of their eating. It comes. It comes. Gojira. Fuck. Oh, the spike in the back. And we got full bellies. Dude, we're fucked. There's no way. Hit us with a Dazaki postcard memory and off into the ED we go. Ah, that's an excellent setup. It locks down a bunch of the emotional beats right before we jump into it. Shit, man. We have this set up in such a way that we could fully die here. And it'll be fine. Fine. Well, that was fun. The back half of this episode is like a really lovely tonal piece for creating the vibe of like, all right, we've made it this far, and now we're going to step into the next segment. We're going to step into the next like big scary adventure portion and sort of take the leap. And I think it's important. I know how to put it. You ever see an animation shot where somebody's like standing and then they go boom, and then they're like their leg like impacts backward into the ground and like the ground explodes behind them and then they rocket forward and go? That first anticipatory motion where they like pull back a little bit or and then launch is what this is, right? If we're imagining the next step as leaping into the abyss where we're fighting the dragon, this is the leaping part. This is the like setting our foot and like and cracking the back and jumping off. It's the anticipation, it's the build-up part that lets us launch wholeheartedly into action and insanity and craziness and the fight that's coming. But we don't want to have our fight um laden down or weighed down by the emotional stuff. We want to be able to bring that in exactly when we want it, when it's most pivotal, right? On this channel, we love fights that include the emotional portion of the battle, that include a battle of ideas and ideals and stuff like that. But to get to that point, we have to have those ironed out effectively, right? We have to have them like put in their categories and placed so that we can call upon them later and deliver on the emotional promises of the rest of the story in the conflict of the battle sequence. And so we have to like settle them somewhat before we jump into the big fight. That's what this feels like. It feels like we're settling our party. We're settling our situation. And then there's the first half of the episode, which is focused on expanding our viewpoint a little bit. Ours, not Laios's and theirs. And I really am glad that I talked about what I talked about in the beginning, because it feels exactly like we've expanded out past that. Here's your tiny view of the dungeon that's all you can see, and you've got this little bit of historical knowledge and your past understandings, and we've expanded out of that by introducing this other character, Tansu, who goes outside of it and goes to places that we don't go, goes to the lords and to the nobles, and introduces us to the faction play, introduces us to the broader scope and the broader stakes of what's going on. Which is really important because we're about to either solve or fail to solve our primary driving motivation in the next couple of episodes that has motivated us for the whole show. Our whole show has been about get to the Red Dragon, get to Fallen. So if we're going to have a show after that, we have to have a show after that. We have to have something set up for after that, and we're starting to do it really, really solidly. That piece that I thought was the most interesting thing that we've brought up about Dungeon Meshi so far, holy shit, there's a weird death curse on this whole place, is actually recognized by the author as the coolest, most central portion of their own story, and is the part that they're going to center everything else around. That's what the elves are interested in. That's what the humans are trying to find. That's what all of the bounties and stuff for orcs are really all about, is to try to drive dungeon innovators down to go and acquire and find the things that those in power are really looking for. And that's pretty fucking great. That's great. That is a powerful analogy to the real world, to the way that like that labor is used, to like the point of the whole thing. Excellent. Excellent, fascinating. Introduced here before it becomes necessary to introduce the next arc, because we haven't solved the last one yet. We're getting up to the brink of it, and so we start introducing the new portions so that there's an overlap. There's a perfect flow, so that whatever happens with the dragon, whether we succeed or fail or have a mixed success of some weird kind, whether we get fallen back or what, the next thing is, now the elves are here. Now there's conflict about this. Now there's something bigger going on in the dungeon that we still have to keep delving deeper for. There's something really important. And we've positioned Laios and his crew as the winners. They're the ones who are going to do it, and it's because they're different and because they're capable of engaging with the dungeon in a different way. They're going to be the ones who get the closest, at least eventually, probably, we can guess. And so now this is not the end game, this dragon. This is a stepping stone, and they don't even know that there's another thing next. It feels like the end game for them. So they can dedicate their all to it. They've got their emotions settled and placed in a way where they're all angled at this. They're all directed toward it. Bellies full, hearts on fire, can't lose, right? Like all the good stuff. That's cool. That's cool. The episode has some of the sort of classic Dungeon Meshi things in it, and they all happen in the first quarter. Like in the first quarter of the episode. There's the bread and stuff a little bit later as well. But the cooking portion, which is usually the capstone of the episode, the end point where we have some conflict stuff and then we wrap it up through cooking. You know it's going to be weird when we start with the cooking and then we leave the rest of the episode for something else. And it is weird. It is a little bit weird. Ah, a stairway full of tentacles. I think it's cool. I think it's really neat. I thought we were going to come up with some way to, like, jump, or maybe the orcs bound down this thing, or, like, rappel down it or something. We still don't come to an answer about how the orcs get up and down here when they go through. Like, they're not wearing frog skins. Maybe they are. Probably not. They're probably not wearing frog skins. So how are they doing it? I don't really know yet. I love the plant integrated with trap sort of vibe that we get a little bit as well. It's really cool. I've never thought about something like that, and I like it a lot. We're getting so far. We're going so fast. No. I love these little diagrams and things. They're so cool and weird. We've gotten so far. How did they navigate this area? I don't know. Oh boy, the frog just yoink. I do want to see this cut where Senshi, like, smashes its head, just because it's so shiny and pretty, and then the texture as he Gallaghers it, as it, like, crumples. We've seen this artist a couple of times, and I always forget who it is, but there's a distinct style to it. The eyes bug out as the skull gets crushed. It's like I don't know if you've ever, don't want to give you a bad image, but if you ever put out mouse traps and see what happens to the mouse afterwards, it's kind of like that. Yeah. The frogs look so fucking good. I think it's the saturation and the color on them. Oh, this one, that's Nemo, but as a frog. Huh. He's a little clownfish frog. Huh. Okay, so then we set up this, like, we're in a tug of war, and now Chilchuck has to do something cool on the side to save us. I really like the setup. It's fun. It's sort of silly. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. And then his brilliance to put on the gloves. I wonder... This serves to cement Chilchuck as, like, thoughtful and careful and capable as an adventurer, as a thinker, as a think outside the boxifier, using his knowledge of dungeons and all this stuff in order to get that done. Comes up with the good idea. Why are giant frogs safe? I don't fucking know. But he comes up with it. He does it. He makes these cool boxing gloves. And the part that is silly about the tug of war is, like, nothing changes about the tug of war over the whole course of him skinning this thing and wrapping it around his hand. I don't care. My brain does not care about that at all. It registers it in the background. It's like, that's a little silly. But I don't care, because the silliness of it enables us to tell this bit of story. I like it. You know what it does? It reminds me of kind of like turn-basedness. Yeah? Laios takes his turn, he's wrestling with the thing, everybody takes their turn, and then it's Chilchuck's turn, he's like, okay, I'm gonna slice these things up. He's just acting on his turn. Yoink, chomp, pull, and immediately they start cooking. A really great idea. We'll just cover the... And then... So we start doing the thing that's helpful for us, and Senshi is immediately cooking. As soon as there's time to cook, he's cooking. What a guy. What a guy. Oh, and Marcel is, like, thinking about which one of you to stop and doesn't end up actually being able to stop them. Manipulation. You'll look so cute in it, Marcel. We all think that you're going to look so cute in it. And then we get a couple of amazing... I just want to see this expression sequence. Man, they look like they're like astronauts. He's a little sausage. What is this a meme of? There's a meme. This is a meme. It's not just this. It was a meme before this also. Fuck. What's the meme here, guys? Help me out. And then there are a couple of bits of animation that are just the animation, the vibe, the camera angle and stuff makes a joke out of the suits, and I'm not sure how it makes that joke land. Like, this is funny, but I'm not sure why. And then it changes face on it, and he's marching. It really reads as like Tigger almost. I'm not sure where my brain is at with this. It's so cute. It's so silly. I really wish that they stayed in these suits to fight the dragon. I think that would be hilarious. And then we enter into the castle town, and the vibe shifts. The vibe shifts. Speaking of vibe shifts, we return over here, find out that she is not good with the transport, I think? Or maybe it's something else that's going on there. And we meet the Lord of the Island. It's a big tooth, I think. It could also be a horn. Where is it? I have this guy who's a little penguin carved out of a horn. Yeah, horn. And looks rather similar to me. Yeah. He's feasting. We pay really distinct attention to it, too. I'm not exactly sure what the takeaway is. My first thought is that everything that he eats is a highly, like, refined food product. So he's eating, like, fine white bread. There's a fair-sized animal that's been cooked in front of him as part of the feast. And then we put real emphasis on the bread with butter and bacon, as he puts it on. Partly it's just because we have people who like drawing food on this show, and they're gonna goddamn draw food, and our show is focused on food, but I wonder what we can take from that, right? Like, the thing that I take from it is the same thing that I take from lots of standard Western diets, which is disconnect. Disconnect. That's the thing that's distinctive about the way that the Lord eats, is that he's disconnected from all of his food. This would be a little bit different if he was eating, like, a whole chicken or something. That's a little bit more connected, but there's little that's, like, quite as extracted from the thing as, like, butter, bread, bacon, processed meat product, processed fat product, processed grain product. And in this world, in this era, like, about as processed, about as refined as you can get them. Of course, refined, expensive, but refined is literally to refine them down. And it's funny that we use refined down to also mean refined, like fine dining type of things. I just wonder, as we present the dramatic difference between the way that our party eats and the way that these people, the other half, eats, are we saying something there? Is there something important about the way that we eat? A little bit, maybe. A little bit. But the conversation is where the real meat is, if you will. Oh, things are getting worse in the dungeon indeed. Yes, indeed, they have started to change and change. You should maybe deploy a troop or offer some rewards. And he wonders at where they've entered from, and I thought they were just in there. I suspect they were in some old dwarf mines. They tend to inhabit such passages, and we bring racism back in. Really interesting. Totally not surprising when the races are actually distinctive from each other and have tendencies and stuff. Dwarfu, huh? And he goes, abominable. God, I hate those. Whoa. They're like moles. They're like monsters, almost. Yeah? Not quite people. Yeah? It's best to seal off their passages, but they don't stop. They just keep making more. The elves and the dwarves divided. They say the dwarves hid and continued to dig tunnels, eventually swallowing the city. It seems like the surviving dwarves are responsible for the dungeon's ongoing expansion, so it's easy to blame dwarves, but it's probably not accurate. He's like, probably it's those digging dwarves making the dungeon bigger. It's like, yeah, or maybe it's the crazy evil wizard mage dude, right? Like, he seems to have a vested interest in making the dungeon bigger. He's been doing it for a long time. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's not the fucking dwarves. But who knows? We're very distant, not just from our food stuff, but from the dungeon itself. Our decision-making is made entirely based on information that Tansu gives us. and, like, historical prejudice, which I think is a pretty accurate estimation of how kings and rulers make informed decisions about how to enact policies. It's part of why so many of the policies that get enacted are so obviously ill-informed, or at least have been for many, many hundreds of years. They're starting to maybe get better, but then you get disinformation in the loop, and it all gets fucked. Because, like, everything that Tansu says to this king prince guy person, the lord guy, from what I know, is accurate, but it didn't have to be. Tansu could totally come here and lie, and the Lord would probably eat it right up. That sucks. That's, like, pretty bad. Okay, but he's got his own interests. That rumor cannot be trusted. I copied the magic circle. It's in Elvish. It's probably the same dude. So he is on his trail. He's going back through his writings. He's following him through art school, right? He's finding his directorial debut. Who is this crazed magician, and where did he start, and how can I learn from that how the magic works, how the most important magic works? There's always a trail. There's always a path. Racism. This magic is beyond the capabilities of a tall man or dwarf. Maybe? As far as you know. Faction play engages right here. I love this. I think this is so fucking cool, because this is exactly what you're supposed to get a few levels down into the dungeon. Like 3 to 6 levels down, you start introducing faction play. Serious groups of people that inhabit and live in the dungeon, and those that live outside the dungeon that want it. And you put them in conflict with each other, and then you give the party, the adventurers, the ability to, like, turn the lever a little bit, right? Divert some resources and information and stuff to the elves. Divert some resources and information to the lord of the island. Divert some information to the orcs, right? We're part of this ecosystem, and there are lots of forces trying to take parts of this ecosystem, and now we have a part to play in deciding who gets to. I love it. I think it's really cool. So now we have these big looming forces that are beyond monsters, that are human organizations, that are nations, peoples, that have a vested interest in the dungeon. In stopping us, in helping us, in supporting us, in funding us, maybe? Now we are potentially instruments of things much greater than us. Or, potentially, we are the wrench in the works, right? There are these big players making their big plays, and maybe we're able to find a unique and interesting way that fits our ideals and isn't bound to the ideals of the elves, or the ideals of the orcs, or the ideals of the dwarves, or the ideals of the lords, but instead is about the ideals of dungeoneers and adventurers and the people who matter on the ground doing the thing. Maybe. That's like the ultimate goal, right? In a lot of ways, at least in the real world sometimes, is to, like, there are these huge forces, corporations, nations, peoples, religions, yeah? And they've all got their own interests and their own things that they're churning toward. And it can feel very easy to feel very small, just a drop in the ocean caught up in these huge waves passing by. And you're just trying to survive, just trying to be buffeted back and forth by it. But when we tell our stories, we love these stories about a group of underdogs who don't have any real power, but through their connection to reality, their lack of distance, in that distance that we have between him and his food, that distance between him and the decisions he's making and where they actually apply, in actually being there on the ground, we might have the opportunity to change things in the way that those distant, great, powerful lords who have power over the whole light cone of the universe, but they don't have power over you. And so maybe you could make choices that change everything, right? Be that rock in the way of the river that can't stop the damn thing, but can divert it very slightly in a way that changes everything. Perhaps only by zooming out and getting this complicated can that happen. Only by starting in a place where we're so directly connected and so small can we get there, because we have to be able to come back to that trueness, that that connection, that realness of, like, in Dungeon Meshi's case, sharing a meal, eating the monster that you killed, like being connected to the ecosystem. Huh. This is clever. This is kind of beyond clever to being, like, really clever. The dungeon is our heritage. Return it to us. And their beatific but condescending smiles. What a selfish demand! They took this land and handed it over humans because they didn't know what to do with it. Ignore them. Do nothing. Yeah, but I kind of can't, man. They'll take it. They'll take it all. Ah, there must be great treasure still hidden. I can't give that up. No, no, no. It's not the treasure. At least not the kind that you're looking for. It's the spell. It's the magic. It's a great mystery. A real mystery. We're seeking the secrets of the goddamned universe here, man. And so Tansu is in the state where he's trying to convince the president that the nuclear program really matters. He's like, this is the end of the world, my guy. This is everything. And the president is like, I know how to politics and also look really good and eat yummy things. I don't really care, right? You know? He's got to figure out a way to get him to know that. And so he does. He's like, the worth will surpass more than gold. The elves will kneel before you. Your power will be so grand and great. And he's like, all right, I guess, I suppose. He doesn't get it, but he doesn't need to. He's manipulable by Tansu. Tansu's not an in-power person. He's a fiendish seeker after knowledge and truth and stuff. And in that sense, I can finally, like, really relate to Tansu. It's that desire to find the truth, find answers. As long as you have it, you can give anything else up. Once the elves know, they will bow before you. Oh, okay. As soon as he wires it into, like, you'll have power and respect. Nailed it. Good. Done. Probably the big boss has it, of course. So there is reason to keep bounties going, reason to keep adventurers delving deeper. Keep them engaged in their self-interest, in their seeking for survival, right? And in the long term, that will push us forward. That will push the boundary forward. It's very much like a government giving grants. Yeah? It's the same process. There's some knowledge base that we want to reach. If we were to reach it, that would be a source of great power for us, right? Wealth generation, power over reality, worthwhile. The nuclear program is a great example, but much more private and, you know, hidden and stuff because the Manhattan Project kind of had to be. But, I don't know, cancer research, right? Like, there's this realm that we don't know where dark and monstrous things lie. Uncovering the secret to knowing that realm would be very powerful and valuable. And lots of different people with different motivations can get lined up toward that in different ways, right? Like the people who want desperately to save lives, who lost people in their lives to cancer and have dedicated their lives to solving it, they'll go. The people who just want to profit off of it because it's highly profitable, they'll go. And the people who are somewhere in the middle or some other motivation, they'll go too. As long as there's the right set of incentives in place to get people to keep going. So people who have some level of power can put those incentives in place. In cancer research, that's like grant money, right? Prizes for certain sorts of discoveries. Those things don't encompass all of the work, but they drive enough of it. They drive enough of the business to keep things going. So these like bounty on orcs or prices for hunting monsters, it keeps the baseline, it keeps people being like, you know, adventure is probably a job that I could do. I'm not going to become a farmer. I'll become an adventurer. And at least I'll be able to survive off of low-level monster loot, even if I'm not great at this, right? If I don't have to be an amazing adventurer. And if we can do that, that gets us a lot more adventurers, and then there will be a lot more amazing adventurers out of those out of those many, you know? So it's like science grants, same idea. If there's consistent science funding, then you at 18 going into college thinking about what you're going to do with your life, or like maybe I get a vocational degree and become a plumber or a welder, or maybe I go for a science thing and do the science stuff that I would like to do and delve into the unknown and explore. But if there's no money in that, if there's no chance of survival, if the NH whatever has stopped giving grant money for all the things that you'd want to study, you're not going to fucking do that. Nobody's going to go delve into the dungeon and risk their lives without some certainty. So they provide the certainty in basic incentive level, and then that provides the like workforce to apply itself to this big task and churn on this big task in the hopes of sort of winning the lottery and getting through. And eventually, with that many baboons typing on typewriters, we'll write Shakespeare. With that many adventurers going and fighting against the dungeon, we'll get somebody through and we'll actually get further. And Laios and their party are kind of proof of that. They're weirdos who have emerged from the existence of dungeoneering as normal as possible, and they're pretty weird and they're pretty different, and they actually have a chance at this thing. So now we're like zoomed out and we're thinking about manipulating populations via incentives, when before we were so plugged in and just realizing that we're part of a population that's bound by the incentive structures around us, yeah? Together, we're coming at this thing from two sides. It feels like we're digging a tunnel through that will meet in the middle and sort of open everything up to us. Don't hoard your wealth and provide even more support. This is something else that I really like, or I think is really interesting. The end game, or like the end point that they come to, is benevolence, is beneficence even, generosity. Don't hoard your wealth. Provide much support to all the adventurers. Why? Because you're a good guy and that makes them all happy. No, because that makes them better adventurers. It makes there be more adventurers. It's directly in line with your motivations. It is self-interested at its core, and yet it has altruistic, like, results. How interesting. How interesting. You can convince the power structures in reality if you can align them, if you can demonstrate to them that the effects of those positive actions are actually more positive for them than negative. It's just hard to wrap my mind around. It's like people who are interested in social change generally take a highly adversarial position toward people who have wealth and power, for obvious reasons. They have it, you don't. They're very interested in keeping it, right? Like, and growing it into more and stuff. When you take that adversarial position, and this is true in many fields, when you take a purely adversarial position, you see somebody as an enemy, a bunch of roads close off to you. You can't see them anymore. A bunch of roads for like working together or working in partially aligned independent self-interests that sometimes align, those options go out the window because I refuse to work with them. They're my enemy. However, in lots of cases, the good thing to do, like feeding the people, or let's use that as an example because it's kind of relevant, right? Like dealing with hunger, right? Just making sure that all the people in the world are mostly fed. That's really expensive. It's really hard to convince rich people to do that. But if you convince them that their labor force is going to be more laboring and more capable of laboring, there might be a way of doing that. If you turn it into self-interest, if you turn the path of generosity, the path of goodness, into a path that looks like selfishness, you can actually convince those people and deal with them on their own level. And that works here a little bit. I don't think Tansu's interested in the well-being of the adventurers. He's fundamentally not. So it's not like he's trying to imbue altruism into this. He's just pragmatic. And in that pragmatism, what I see is that if I was somebody like deeply interested in the quality of life of adventurers in the dungeon and stuff, the way that Senshi and Laios and all those people really are, and the dungeon itself, the ecosystem, I might take the same exact tact and say, my guy, if you are the one who funds this and succeeds, you will be known forever as the man who solved immortal life. You'll be known forever as the conqueror of the dungeon, right? Like, the heroes who you pay to do it, they're going to get some of the credit, but you're going to be the guy who paid for it, who made it happen. You're going to be the lord of this dungeon. How cool is that? And my motivation might be to get you to spend your money on the things that I care about. But if I can make it so that your motivation is your own ego and stuff, I can convince you to do the good things. Whereas if I came to you and I was like, hey, dude, the world sucks and it's really hard and these adventurers are having a hard life and dying a bunch, they would be much happier if they had a little bit more money and better bounties for stuff. You should do that as a lord. It's like, fucking why? What do I get out of it? Well, let's start with what you get out of it. What could you get out of it? I like it. I like it a lot. Because to me, this is the way. It's like, if I am in that position of being a true underdog, right? I'm an individual human being. Maybe I can have the great power of connecting to a few other human beings and forming a unit, a team and stuff, and we can apply ourselves and get some stuff done. Even then, I can't face off against the Coca-Cola Corporation. I can't face Amazon. Nobody fucking can, right? But I might be able to make a deal, like some kind of a deal with it, or convince it, or shape public opinion around it, or things like that. And if I open myself up to the possibility that, like, that weird monster, it might not be a monster, but something that I could, like, deal with, it opens the world to me. It stops feeling hopeless. Even if it kind of fundamentally is, it doesn't feel like that anymore. It feels like a possibility space, a broad possibility space. So then I start to wonder, so what can I do? And like we said at a different point in this episode, if you put your mind to it and you really think it through, often a way will appear, one that was not obvious. I'll help you buy time. I wonder how far they can go. I really like this interaction between these two, and I really like her voice actress. She seems very soft and sweet. And also the eyes. That does something to me on the inside. Makes my tummy bumbly. Weird. I just think she's cute. So she doesn't know about Fallen. That's super interesting. I wonder if that's going to drive her to come and find us again. I wonder if we can pass through that mirror and get down there really fast again. That would be very cool. I like the setup of the city. I like the lions and the feel of it and the spaces. It feels good. It feels weird. It feels abandoned in a rush and kind of strange. Of course, bread. The burning is recent. It hasn't left a long time ago. It's still around and still on the move. And that layers in a bunch of problems. We don't know how we're going to fight it. The dragons are really hard to fight. The team that we had that worked before, we don't have anymore. We had a strategy and a method, and we don't have the people who make that strategy work. We've got to come up with another way. And it's not just, you can't just be like, a way will appear to us if we put our minds to it. Let's go try it. You can do that in a video game because you just get to retry. But here there are stakes. We have to be more careful. I love this. This reminds me of what the OSR is trying to accomplish. The OSR is like the old school revival or old school renaissance of D&D games. A bunch of D&D games that came out after like an OGL fiasco with D&D 5th edition. In order to recapture the old vibes of the old games, right? And part of the old game's aesthetic and sensibility is deadliness, absolute deadliness. The new games are kind of like, you're a hero, a great hero. You come across some giant rats and you can be pretty sure you're going to be able to kill those goddamn giant rats. Good job. It's not actually true at level 1 in D&D 5th edition, but as you scale past that, you stop being killable. You start becoming a real superhero. OSR is not like that. You're a dude, and you walked into a room and there's a skeleton in there, and that skeleton is going to kill you. He's going to put his bony hand through your chest, and you're going to die. You have the chance to run away. Maybe. Depends on how we roll initiative. Depends on how we roll encounter distance. Depends on the reaction roll for the skeleton. Depends on a whole bunch of things. But mainly, if you're going to open a door, you got to be pretty aware that the thing on the other side of the door is probably going to kill you. And you're probably not going to be able to fight it very effectively. So you got to be ready to run. You got to be ready to Make a plan. You got to be ready to have 6 dudes with crossbows pointed at the door, and then the thief opens the door and jumps back, and everybody fires their crossbow without seeing what's on the other side of the door and just launches crossbow bolts into it, and maybe you'll survive what's on the other side of the door. And, like, come up with a plan, you know? Like, think it through for real. Come up with a way to stack the odds in your favor so that that thing that will definitely kill you if you get close to it never gets close to you. And you drop burning oil on it from 50 feet away, right? And that's it. That's the game. And that's the game, because the game of Dungeons and Dragons is partly I swing my sword and deal this much damage, and you swing your sword and deal this much damage, and I swing my sword and deal this much damage, and you swing your sword and deal this much damage. And at a certain point, we'll get there. We get to that point where we're just swinging swords at each other. But what about stacking the odds beforehand? What about strategy? What about tactics? What about approaching this battle in a way that's advantageous to us? That's the part that we want to encourage in our players, and that's the part where creativity is happening. The person is thinking. They're putting themselves in the mind of this character who's like, not a video game character who's like, I'm going to go fight this Dark Souls boss 400 times and then win eventually, right? By luck. Which works very well for Dark Souls, because that's what the characters are able to do in Dark Souls. They revive, right? So it's like, oh, that makes sense. That's a sensible thing to do. I don't lose anything. In D&D terms, it's like, I lose my life. I'm a real person. I don't want to fucking die. I'm Chilchuck out here being like, I'm actually not a combatant. I don't like fighting things. I'm not going to fight this dragon. But I'll help. I don't want to see my friends die, so how do I help? Well, let me apply myself to this fantasy world and think of ways, right? Maybe with my trap knowledge, I could make traps. Maybe with my hiding, I could hide somewhere and trigger those traps, right? Like, now we're thinking, you're putting yourself inside the mind of the character, and you're actually thinking as though the world that they're engaging with is real. And we're not just, I deal this much damage, you deal this much damage, I deal this much damage. We're like, I strategize, and I come up with a strategy that this dumb monster is never going to be able to see their way out of. And maybe the goal is to get to the point where our encounter comes down to just one roll. Does the dragon dodge out of the way of the building? If so, this whole thing's fucked. If not, we got it. You do everything you can to make sure that that dragon gets pinned by that building, and then we leave it up to the dice and we decide, because there's a jumping off point where we jump into the unknown, and we got to just try the plan, and things will go wrong. And it's in that combination of things that's close to reality. Is like, you come up with the best strategy that you can, with the best options that you can for all the outlying strategy, like spaces where things go weird and wrong. You come up with as many plans as you can, and at a certain point, you just got to do it. I love that we spend time planning it, because I really like that planning part. It's important. It's the real setup. I also really like how many of our options won't work, because we just don't have the skills possible, right? Marcel, we come up with the idea, maybe we jump. Yeah, I can't do it. Don't have that level of feather fall. It's not going to work. We're like, it's real strategy here. It's like, okay, do we attack from this front? No, we don't have the weaponry. We don't have the supply lines. Okay, do we attack from this front? Nah, maybe not. Okay, do we abandon this city, or do we hold it and try to force them into an extended siege? I don't know. Maybe this, maybe that. It's real. That's real. It feels real. What if we blow up a building? So we think outside of every box. I love Senshi being, not my knife. When you put your mind to it, a way opens, huh? Often, yes. Often, yes. And often, when you put your mind to something and you come to the conclusion that there's no way, I want to say this because it's not quite related, but I was thinking about it yesterday or the day before. It's like, you come up against a way where there's no way, and that is the point where you need to go outside of your understanding of reality. You got to go outside the room and go find the tree and copy it. Something like that. It's like, there's no way, at least with the way that I'm seeing the world as it is, and with my my goal state being what I've stated that it is, and with my understanding of myself and my power and my potential, there's no way. So I have to change one of those variables. I have to expand my view of reality. I have to alter my goal state, or I have to alter my own power and potential. I'm not sure. I feel like I'm right on the edge of something. Because there's something in the psychology work that I've been investigating that's about finding that thing within when you can't find it. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm glad that I've said the space out loud a little bit and just mentioned it, but I'm not sure where to go from there. Again, kind of like the drawing that isn't coherent yet. That's okay. I love the mapping. What a call out to like old school gaming, really setting up your location and figuring out where everything is. Uh, uh, yeah. A lot of old school style games, the dungeon master would never share their maps with the player, but would expect one of the players to be the map maker. And based on the descriptions of everything, they would be attempting to map, probably inaccurately, a map of all the rooms that they've gone through and all the spaces that they've been in. And that will become the map that the dungeoneers use as they go. It's really important to get it right. I like this little moment where he ducks out from under the thing. I don't know why. It's something about the cut feels cool. You slipped away! Oh yeah, we gotta eat some bread. We're not gonna lose again. Chilchuck is dangerous around alcohol. We gotta be careful. Fucking Katsu. I learned this from Isekai Shiokudo. Katsu. It's Kats. It's close to victory. Kats. So like a victory bowl is a pork cutlet bowl. So I love this. They have frog victory cutlets to go fight the dragon. What a good meal for the purpose. She's excited to not have to eat monsters. Yeah, fucking right, Marcel. Yeah, right. And we bring it to an emotionally strong place where Laios thanks each of them for their role in getting us this far. Thank you to Senshi for your hunger and your attitude. Thank you to Chilchuck for your capacity and your ability to help us through these doors and your dependability. Marcel, he doesn't thank Marcel actually. Thanks for your magic, but sorry for your struggle. And thank you for joining me, right? Yeah, he tells them all this while they're eating. This is so silly. And it's here. It arrives. It looms. And so we're ready to jump from stable ground out into the deeply unknown and fight the goddamn dragon. We've done everything we can to stack the odds in our favor, to come up with the strategy, to make a plan. And now all there is to do is to battle the thing that we've been chasing down for our whole series. Everything changes here. Where do we go from here? How do we transition from this into that faction play that comes later? Will we actually defeat it? Or will we just drive it deeper or something strange like that? I don't know, but I'm going to find out next week when we watch more Dungeon Meshi. I've heard that the next couple of episodes go together very well, and I'm aware of that, and maybe we'll watch them together. So we'll leave off here with all our setup done and watch those next time. Thank you so much for joining me this time for this week's episode of Dungeon Meshi. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to catch you next week for more. Early access on the Patreon. Much love. Peace.